Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to share something really cool with you. See, each week I do about a dozen Zoom lessons. This is where people all around the world send me videos of their game. It could be either their technique or their match play and strategy, and we review it over Zoom, and I give them a private tennis lesson. These are people all around the world, yet they can take a lesson with me at any time. It's so cool. Well, earlier today, I had a match strategy Zoom lesson with one of my clients, Jake. This is around his fifth lesson I think he's had with me, but this is actually our second strategy lesson. And he allowed me to share this lesson with you. And by the way, if there's a stroke you'd like to improve, or you would like me to review match strategy, either your single strategy or your double strategy, go to 2minutetennis.net after watching this video and sign up for a private lesson, a Zoom analysis lesson with me at a time that is convenient for you. All right, enough of that. Let's get right to the lesson.
The first thing is the concept of when to come forward. So I think we talked about this. Do you know the 3 times to come forward in tennis?
No.
The 3 times? Okay. So there's serve and volley on a short ball, and when your opponent is in trouble.
Got it.
Okay. So how many times did you serve and volley?
0.
Okay, that's fine. And serving and volleying is one of those that you better have a good enough serve that they can't just tee off on it. So
and he's you see he's
he's
he's a good player, and my serve
Excellent.
isn't good enough to get him uncomfortable.
Good. So we don't have to worry about this. And meaning against certain opponents, it's kind of just you're going into the lion's den with a serve and volley.
Right.
Not a problem whatsoever. What I noticed is throughout the hitting that you were very good at coming in on short balls, or even balls that weren't necessarily super short, but you kind of forced your way in, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But one area that I really noticed that you can do more is this last one.
Yeah.
Is coming in when your opponent is in trouble. And so you have to be able to recognize that your opponent is in trouble. And that takes a little bit of empathy. You have to put yourself in your opponent's shoes and feel what they feel. I can remember giving lessons, and I'd be talking to this person and I'd be teaching them. And I would tell them, oh, your opponent's in trouble, move forward. And they're like, they're in trouble? And I would ask this player and I'd say, hey, were you in trouble? They're like, oh my gosh, I almost fell over. Like I was stumbling to get to that ball. In trouble is easier to feel than it is to see. It's much easier for us to feel that we are in trouble, falling over, stretching, reaching, stumbling, than it is for us to notice that the opponent is there, is in that same situation. So it just takes being aware that, look, you're not playing Andre Agassi. So we know that this guy is a good player, but he's not Andre Agassi. And what I mean by that is you can get him in trouble, right? It's hard to get Agassi in trouble, but we can get the players who we play against in trouble more often than I think we give ourselves credit for. And here's a perfect example of that. You hit a really good shot that pulls him off the court. Now he's completely off the court here.
Yeah.
Completely off the court. And you're about to hit this ball. Now, I have no problem with you hitting it into the open court. Sometimes you want to wrong foot them, but you can't wrong foot him when he's off the court because he's so off the court. So this is where before you ever hit the ball, you want to have a little thought bubble, and in that thought bubble, you think I'm going to the net because you're going to hit this ball here and you're going to move forward to rob him of time.
I got you.
You're going to move forward and rob him of time. So
I got you. Yeah.
So it isn't just the number of times that we go to the net. It is also the quality of the approaches. And when we approach the net, are we giving ourselves a quality approach? And that's the one thing that became very obvious with you and your opponent. His name was Brian.
Brian. Yeah. Brian. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Brian was very good at coming forward, and he was in charge. Where I felt like a lot of times when you came forward, you weren't in charge of the situation. And we'll talk about why. But here's a perfect example. You need to be hitting to the open court. Now watch. You hit it into the open court. He's in trouble. He's running backward off the court again. Like he's gone. He's nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And you hit that ball and watch what you do. You sneak in, but you're still behind the base, or slightly in front of the baseline. You're still at the baseline. And this ball lands in no man's land. Actually, this ball lands right near the service line.
Yeah.
A little past the service line. That should have been an overhead. So you get better at overheads by hitting them, right? Like you get better at going forward by doing it more often. Practice makes better. Like you get better with practice. So in order for you to beat Brian, it requires you to hit this ball, go forward, and hit an overhead into the open court.
I got you.
Right? So like it's one thing to draw up a scheme and a plan, but it takes the gumption and the guts to execute and to attempt the strategy. So the next time you play Brian or anybody, and you get them off the court and you hit a really good deep shot that gets them in trouble, you need to sneak in.
Okay.
And this is actually one that will happen more than you think, that you get your opponent in trouble. Because if you're always waiting for a short ball, what if your opponent doesn't give you short balls?
Right.
Then it's like, how do I get in? We can hit corner to corner or high and deep, and maybe they move back and they don't take it on the rise. And then that ball, it bounces back up again, and now it's high up on their backhand. Well, his backhand's this way because he's a lefty, but you got the idea. We can sneak into the court and get the ball out of the air, which he actually does against you later on, and we'll see that. But I want you to just know that when your opponent's in trouble, you've got to go forward, because it's just like MMA and you're boxing or you're fighting. When you clip the guy and you get him in trouble and they're stumbling, you attack, you go forward, and you rob them of time to recover and kind of get their bearings. Okay.
I got it.
Yeah. This is really one of the keys. And this is something you don't see the pros do enough. You don't see the pros take time away from the opponent by going forward enough. I'm just not sure why they don't do it. So I want you to do that. All right. Approach down the middle. So here's a situation where, let me actually see here. You get a short ball right here. Now, you're getting a short ball. You can do anything you want with this shot. When you are hitting approach shots and coming forward, you want to, as a general rule, hit to their weaker side. Hit to the side where they're going to hit higher over the net. So you can get high volleys and medium volleys and overheads, not balls at your feet and half volleys. That doesn't mean your opponent will always give you a high ball. Sometimes you'll approach to their backhand and they'll give you a low ball. But in most cases, you want to hit approach shots to your opponent's backhand side. You want to give them the ball that they don't want, right? So your opponent probably wants you to give him a forehand. So don't give him that ball. So you can see on this approach, you hit right down the middle and you hit it right to his forehand. So now he can do really whatever he wants. You want to stay away from approaching down the middle. And you want to hit approach shots that are more to what's called a safety post, which is kind of like 3 feet in, 3 feet in. And it's the same thing over here. You want to hit safety posts. And if you can hit the safety post, which is nice and deep in a corner, oh my gosh, it's awesome. But hitting down the middle, now all of a sudden your opponent is on balance and they get to do whatever they want. Now, you'll see that he lobs this ball really high and you start running back. So look what he sees. He sees your back.
Right.
You're in trouble. So what should Brian do?
They come to the net.
Look what he does.
Yeah.
He comes forward, right? So when your opponent is in trouble, you go forward, which means when you're in trouble, you have to assume that your opponent is coming forward, right? Like it's a two-way street.
Sure.
Now you go for a lob, which is great. Now you missed the lob. And
I shanked it. Yeah.
That's okay. You went for the right shot. And so I'm not going to get you on that. You went for the right shot. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, obviously. And those who can't teach. So he's coming forward and you went for the lob. and you miss, no problem. When you are running backward, what I do want to make sure you do is you go for a really high lob and that you aim for the very middle. Anytime you're in a lot of trouble, you aim for the middle, and that gives you margin to each side. I'm not sure where you were aiming because you shanked it. I don't know if you remember that shot. It's a little hard to remember.
I was trying to go just middle, just
Good.
middle
Perfect.
of the court.
Done.
Yeah,
Done.
yeah, and I just shanked it.
The key here is you got the short ball, and it kind of like in baseball, they say that you basically each at bat get one pitch. That the pitcher is going to make a mistake. Like, you can't make a mistake on that pitch. Like, you've got to make that pitcher pay. When you get a short ball, you can't rely on short balls all the time because it's your opponent doing something that they didn't mean to do. And so when you get that short ball and you're coming forward, especially because it's your forehand, you've got to do what you need to. And I would say just a nice deep approach shot to his backhand side would have made this point completely different.
Okay.
Approach to the backhand, not down the middle. Okay, need to hit. Okay. So you hit a really good approach shot to his backhand. Now, let's see you do a split step. Yep, great split step. Now, you get a half volley here. You get a ball that lands in front of you.
Yeah.
The problem is you're running forward and you still have your topspin grip. You're running forward and you're not changing to your volley grip. And because you have your topspin grip, when he gives you a forehand, you then have to hit a topspin forehand. And the grip kind of cornered you into your shot selection.
Interesting.
If you had your volley grip, and you can see when you're running forward, your strings are facing down. It's a little hard to see, but your left hand as you're coming, see how your arms are pumping?
Yeah.
That's your arms are pumping. That means your left hand is not on the racket, which means you still have your topspin grip. If you put your left hand on, then you can change your grip to your volley grip. And then when you get this half volley, you can just do like a little drop shot or a little chip. That's something that, to be honest, Brian would have done. In this situation, sorry. Give me 1 second.
No, you're good.
Sorry. I got a call there. What you'll see with Brian is when he gets a short ball, he's very crafty with his shots and his court vision. It would be like a great basketball player making a great pass, right? Because they can see the court and they know it's around them. And Brian was very good at little dinks and little angles and touch shots. And because you had that grip, then you're forced to take this big swing and you miss badly. But I think anybody would miss badly attempting that shot. But I think it was all because you have the grip. So when you came forward, I love the shot to with a backhand deep into the corner. You want to immediately put your left hand on the racket so that you can change the grip. It's really hard to change the grip with only your right hand on.
Yeah,
the left
I got
hand
you.
assists the grip. So because you made that mistake, to me, that's a mistake for someone who only comes to the net 4 times in your previous tennis life. The old Jake. So that's a mistake that could happen. But somebody who comes to the net 19 times, this Jake hopefully doesn't show up again.
It doesn't reappear.
It doesn't reappear. The 19, which is what we want. Give you a little check mark there. That's what we want. But with 19 times going to the net, with great power comes great responsibility. And with you coming to the net with the knowledge, like Spider-Man, you've got to come forward now and have that grip change so that when you come forward and you get that low ball, you can do a little drop shot. This is actually a perfect time to just do a little half volley.
Yeah. Okay.
You pushed him back. He's behind the baseline when you're making contact. He's back here while you're making contact. And a little drop shot right here. Get the ball to bounce 3 times before he ever runs it down. So just make sure you always change your grip. Okay. When you're coming forward, that's a really important concept.
Okay.
Need to hit a half volley. So video number 4. All right. Look at my notes. Force your way to the net, but a deep approach shot. Nice volley. Okay. So in your attempt to get to the net more often, and it's what got you to come to the net 19 times, there was a bit of you forcing yourself in.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I actually don't mind that because you have to kind of touch the burner to learn that it's hot as a kid almost.
Yeah, that's what I want. I wanted to be like,
Yes.
if I'm gonna make an error, let's make an aggressive error rather than a
100%.
Yeah,
that's exactly good. Because you have to learn when not to come forward or when you forced yourself in. So here's a nice deep shot by him. And you take a ball on the rise. No, it's not that ball. It's this ball. You kind of force your way in to come forward and notice you approach right down the middle. Now, luckily your approach shot was pretty deep and it actually forced him to move back, which is great. And so anytime your opponent's moving back, it's going to be much harder for them to pass you because as they move back, the court becomes more narrow, potential angle becomes smaller. So let me plug my phone in here. So what I absolutely love is that you hit a deep approach shot, but what I think got you in a little bit of trouble in subsequent points that we'll talk about is you forced your way in. Yeah, I don't want you to force your way in unless you get him in trouble. Now, if you hit this backhand, if you hit that ball on the rise and then you hit it pretty high and really deep and you see him moving back and you decide to sneak in, which we talked about, you get your opponent in trouble, that's one thing. But I don't want you forcing your way to the net, which is what happened here. Now, gotcha. You really hit a great volley. And I want to talk to you about something. I want you to notice what happens first. It's really important when you're moving, hitting a volley, which is going to happen a lot more often because you're coming to the net more. It's important that you hit the ball, Jake, before your foot hits the ground.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay. So, and I'm going to demonstrate this back in front of the camera. When you're moving forward, it has to be hit, then step.
Interesting.
So watch,
okay.
And this is what you do. Watch. Hit, step. And the definition of a step to me is when your foot hits the ground. So you're hitting on your right side, which means you're stepping with your left foot. Hit, step. That's really important because it allows you to keep moving through the volley. What it does is it gets you moving your right arm with your left leg. And that's how we run. We run with our arms opposite each other, our arms and legs opposite each other. I'm going to show you in a second here a couple backhand volleys where you step prior to hitting the ball and it ends up making you do like a foot shuffle and is going to make you not be able to move through your volley efficiently. And it's going to make it so that it's harder to control the ball.
I see. I'll show you that in a second. Okay.
I absolutely love your volley. It's nice and deep. It's super flat. You don't chop it. You hit very flat into the back. I would say you swing a bit where you can see when you're done with the volley, your strings are facing down. But I love how flat the volley was. Just finish with your strings still facing forward.
Got it. Okay.
That'll mean that if you mistime it, the ball won't go into the net. But I love how flat the volley was and your footwork was excellent. Nice deep volley. Really, really good.
That one felt good. That one felt good.
I can tell because you favorited it.
Yeah. I favorite my mistakes too. I favorite the good ones and the bad ones. I'm pretty equal opportunity.
Absolutely. I saw it because every time I saw a favorite video come up, I thought, oh, he's going to win this point. And then you'd lose it. I'm like, look at him. He's such an honest guy.
Oh, yeah.
You wanted me to kind of notice those more. Yeah.
And I want to see him like, okay, let me look at those again. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Number 5. Let's look at the 5th video here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So let's check this out. Oh, this is really good. So watch this. You hit a backhand into his backhand and it's nice and deep.
Yeah.
So what should you do?
You
should sneak in. And look, you're coming forward, which is great. You're coming forward, which is great. I don't mind that you didn't get that ball out of the air. It doesn't mean you come forward barreling in and just volleying with, complete disregard to,
Right.
percentages. It means go forward into no man's land and address the ball as needed. And this was really good. You then hit the ball into the opposite corner. He's in a lot of trouble, which is really great. You're coming forward. Now, what shot should you expect him to hit in this situation?
A lob.
Yes. He's in major trouble, so he should lob, as he should. Very good. You were smart to let this ball bounce because the chances of messing up that overhead are pretty high. And you'll see the pros do that all the time. The ball goes super high. They let the ball bounce. Now, the key, I got to make a video on this, by the way. The key to hitting an overhead off a bounce is heavy side spin with a fast racket and fast racket speed. So spin the ball heavily. You can see that you hit very flat. You have a very flat grip. What I want you to use is continental service grip. You can see which way you're swinging. You're swinging this way. You're swinging the direction you're hitting the ball, which means you're going to hit flat. What I actually want you to do is swinging that way with a continental grip, swinging off to your right, really spinning the ball. You'll notice this with the pros. Whenever the pros hit bounce overheads, the ball always curves, and it's a heavy curve because they're spinning the ball, and it's a way to control the ball. You don't, and it's a way to mess up your opponent. You don't want to be pushing this ball, which is tends to be what people do, is they push the ball and then the opponent comes forward. I actually forget what you do. Yeah, you push it forward. Let's see what he does. He doesn't take advantage of it. But the main point here with this video, or this point, let's see what actually happens. I forgot. Yes.
Let
me
that
see.
little slice backhand. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about it. I'm going to talk to you about it. So the heavy spin on the overhead off a bounce, really important. Now, let's talk. That's the shot selection of high-level players. Now, you come forward, you hit to his backhand. I love that you hit to his backhand, and he doesn't do much with it. Now, remember on the forehand volley, because I want to show you the forehand volley versus the backhand volley. Now, we have to reverse this, right? So it can get a little confusing. So we're going to make it nice and easy. On the forehand volley, it should be hit the ball, then your left foot hits the ground. And that's what you did. You hit the ball, then your left foot hit the ground.
Right.
Now watch the backhand volley. You should hit the ball, then your right foot should hit the ground. But watch what you do. Your right foot hits the ground, then you hit the ball.
Interesting.
And do you see that little skip with your feet?
Yeah.
The skip is because the order of events was incorrect. Watch what you do with your forehand volley. You step with your left, then you step with your right, and you take a full step afterward. With the backhand volley, you step first, so then you can't take a step with your left foot. This is physics at work. Every action has an equal and opposite. When we pump our arms, when we run, our arms go opposite our legs. And I'm going to demonstrate after we do this in front of the camera, I'm going to demonstrate having the racket going forward on the side of the body opposite our legs, which is what you do on your forehand. This is perfect. You hit the ball, then you step. On your backhand volley, you step and then you hit. And it means that your feet cannot move through the ball.
That makes sense.
When your feet can't move through, because it's almost like you're try running with your arms and legs, not opposite. Like it's very awkward. And that's kind of what's happening. So it's important that we practice on the volley, that you hit the ball, then your right foot hits the ground. And you do it again on the with a subsequent volley. Let me see here. Yep, front foot, hit the ball, then front foot. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you on the backhand. I can actually get rid of this. Let's see what happens. It'll be important. Let me see here. Yeah, you actually take a few more steps, I think, than you wanted to. This is one of those shots that you're putting pressure on him and then he ends up missing. This is one of those that he's really frustrated, but look, you're forward. He wants to look at his shot, and this is the pressure that you can put on your opponent. I love it.
Yeah.
Number 6. This is one of those basic approach shots to the backhand that are so important to your winning percentage, getting above 42%. You get a backhand approach and you hit it right to his backhand and you give him the shot that he doesn't want. Now, is he better than this? Yes, that's why his hands are on his hips, because he's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. But what do you think he would rather you do? He would rather you hit it to his forehand and then he can blast it up the line on you.
Right.
Let me ask you something. When you were hitting approach shots, was your main focus, which is fine, which I wouldn't mind at all, was your main focus just hit and get in? Or was there a deeper thought behind which side you were going to approach toward?
So, it's a great question. I generally try to go to his backhand. You made a great point last time about this guy, Brian. He's got this slicing cross court backhand that he can slice kind of right over the middle of the net, really low. So, I try to go, I more to the backhand in general, but against Brian, I also try to mix it up because his backhand slice is really, really dangerous. And, he's the type of guy that if I go to an alley, sometimes if my approach shot isn't good enough, it actually plays into his hands because he can beat me down the line and he can beat me with that low, slicing cross court shot. So it's like if I go too much to the sideline and it's not a good approach shot, I'm in trouble, man.
So you are 100% correct. It is actually not advisable to get your opponent over here.
Right.
If you hit the ball cross court and actually pull them into the alley, it's actually easier for them to pass down the line, which means you've got to barrel over, and then all of a sudden it's easy for him to pass you cross court too. It's actually why I suggested that you hit to the safety post. What it does is it keeps him inside the court. If I draw a straight line here, notice, and then if he's here, notice these shots landed in the same spot, but look how the ball traveled. So if you come to the net, you are closer to this line than you are this line. So what happens is people often think, oh, I'm going to pull my opponent off the court. We don't want to approach down the middle if we can help it, unless we can hit really deep. If you can hit really deep, then you can get away with it. But if you approach down the middle short, you're sunk. If you approach down the middle, it's not your best interest. But if you really pull your opponent off the court and they're not really in trouble, then it's just as bad, because then their shot travels down the line, it's actually traveling down the doubles alley. And it's crossing the net in the doubles alley. And it's actually farther away from you. And you see down the line passing shots hit all the time on the Pro Tour. And they actually are hitting the ball from outside the court. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. It's like, whoa, it's actually easier to pass your opponent when you're in the doubles alley or by the singles line, because then the ball is actually farther away from them as the ball travels down the line. So what you're saying is 100% true, and absolutely love it. One thing I will tell you is when you play Brian here with the slice backhand, and I remember that, depth is the key. People don't like hitting slice on the rise. So when you hit the backhand, you have to get it deep, which is why I was mentioning like 3 feet in and 3 feet in. That safety post, you can see it's a deep approach, and you can tell he doesn't know what to do. He does not hit that ball with conviction, because the deeper the ball comes, the less people want to take it on the rise. It's not easy to take an on the rise ball with slice. It's easy to frame that ball. So by hitting it deep, you can actually take away the shot that he actually wants. So the deep approach shot to his backhand is going to produce a ton of success for you.
Yeah.
Front foot on the ground again. Okay, here is what we talked about before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Let me see if this is it. Yep. All right.
My foot's on the ground. I see.
Yeah.
It's my foot's locked. Yeah.
Oh, this is so good. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah.
This is what you can notice with video analysis. Okay. First off, I love the approach shot to the backhand. Really good. Really good. Here's the backhand volley. Now notice foot hits the ground.
Yeah, sure.
You have not hit the ball yet. And see that little skip with your feet?
Yeah.
It's like like when we're kids and we do a gallop, and like the gym teacher's like, okay, let's run. Okay, let's skip. Okay, let's gallop. And you keep the one foot in front as you gallop. That's what you do here. You do a little gallop. You can't move through that volley.
Right.
And so your body weight, the volley is a momentum power source. We want to move through the volley. Well, you put your foot down and you end up doing a little skip gallop into that shot. And I know you chop, and you talked about that, but that's actually one of the hallmarks of putting the foot down first is you end up chopping. Now watch this. Love this movement over, by the way. You do this side shuffle, really good stuff. Now watch your forehand volley. You hit, then your foot hits the ground.
Totally different. Yeah.
And notice you don't do the gallop. Your back foot can come forward. It's interesting how the physics of this works. When your foot hits the ground, you will do a gallop. When you hit the ball and then your foot hits the ground, you'll just move through the volley. Great volley, by the way. Let's look at this. Now, notice your volley. You keep your strings facing forward. Remember that very first volley, the very first point?
They were down,
strings, They finished down. Here, your strings face forward. Now they go down, but that's not part of the follow through. That was you just recovering. So really, really good stuff. It's so good to see this technical difference between the backhand volley and forehand volley.
That's a great point. That one really illustrates it.
Yeah. It's funny is this is a really common mistake. So when I look at somebody in a certain situation, I just go through the mental Rolodex of the shots or the mistakes that they might make. So with experience, you just learn what to look for. Okay, let me see here. Great position in this volley. Foot hits the ground. 8, running hard off the court. Okay, number 8. All right. So something that I didn't notice with you was Brian was very quick to lob when he was in a little bit of trouble moving laterally. Now, there was that one point when you ran backward and you lobbed, and it was the one I think where you missed, and that was no problem. You were running backward. When you're running laterally, do you find yourself going for lobs? Like, this is a really deep approach shot. You're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself in this situation going for lobs, or do you find yourself in this situation try to hit it low at the feet more often?
Yeah, I used to be like a lobber. Like I would just lob like all the time. But more like lob, like trying to hit like the perfect lob and trying to hit a winner over his head. And so mentally, like with my progression as a tennis player, in the last like year and a half, I've mentally shifted to kind of force myself to hit those balls hard, just so I don't like it's a way for me not to get back into like lob mode, I think, to your point though, I don't do a good enough job reading the situation now, right? It was, before I was lobbing all the time, and now I'm really trying to hit hard. But yeah, I don't go to the defensive lob quite enough.
Yeah. Well, based on what you just said, if I were to film myself and critique myself, I could give myself the same lesson I'm giving you. some of the ideas would be the same. So don't beat yourself up, because I'm not here on high telling you all the things you're doing, and I would never do those things. I'm not a pro. I'm much closer to your level than I am Federer's. I would make so many mistakes, and a coach would look at me play and go, "Oh, you should have done this. You should have done that. You should have done that." So don't beat yourself up too much. The one thing I'll say is there's a difference between always going for it on fourth down and always punting, or knowing the situation and knowing when it's smart to go for it on fourth down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So going for the ball at the feet might be going for it on fourth down, where punting is the lob. You don't want to always punt or always go for it on fourth down. It's situational. So you were always lobbing. And by the way, I love your differentiation between defensive lob and offensive lob. Too many players think the definition of a lob is hitting a ball over the opponent's head and making it bounce. That's not the definition of a lob, and you know that.
Yeah.
The definition is hit it super high, and if it goes over their head, great, and if not, great. At least let them screw up the overhead.
Right.
You'll also notice this is outdoor tennis. This is something to really pay attention to. If you have the sun at your back, when your opponent comes to the net, they don't want you to lob.
Right, the sun ball. Yeah, the good old sun ball.
Yes. So reading the situation and just knowing which side of the court you're on, what you might actually do is, if your opponent tends to lob with their backhand approach, when you're on this side, you might say, you know what, I'm going to approach to his forehand, because at least he's not going to lob me. So there's outdoor tennis is a little different than indoor tennis. Yeah. So because of that, you might actually change your strategy and say, you know what, Ryan, I didn't want him to lob the ball on his backhand. So I purposely approached to his forehand because he kept giving me the sun ball. So, there's strategy there that you want to keep in mind. So you're running off the court really hard. And just like in football, they call out kicking your coverage. And you punt the ball too fast. It's a line drive punt, and you don't give the guys time to run down and force a fair catch. It's the same thing here. You hit a very good, I'll make it yellow here. You hit a very good shot to his feet, but you hit it really hard. And by the way, notice how he's running forward and he hits a little half volley.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier.
Like we talked about. Yep. He's a smart player. There's no doubt about it. So these ideas we're talking about are going to help you against him. But notice when he hits the half volley, he's hitting the ball right now, and you're nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
So we can see your shadow, but we don't see you at this moment. So you kind of outkicked your coverage. So if you're running off the court and you're not going to get back in time, you don't want to hit hard at his feet. It's a good idea to lob this ball super high. Give yourself time to get back into the court. And that way you give him the sun ball and you give yourself time to get back into the court.
Yeah.
You end up he hits a half volley short, which is kind of what I wanted you to do before. And here's a rule that you can kind of write in stone, especially on the backhand side, When you are running forward, anytime you're inside the court or running forward into the court, especially on the backhand side, running up by this side tee. So this is kind of like the perfect situation for this rule to be said. When you're running forward to the side tee, hit the passing shot down the line.
Okay.
Your opponent will almost always be in a situation to cover the cross-court pass in this situation.
Okay.
And you can see you run and you end up going for a little bit of a lob cross-court, and he ends up hitting the ball down the line. He gets a little lucky because he actually paints the baseline here. Like I looked at it, he hits it right on the baseline. But just for a very specific situation, when your opponent hits a weak ball and you're running, so if they hit it like this and you're running forward here, pass down the line in these situations. Okay. It was actually one of the titles of my podcast, of a podcast that I did, the 2 Minute Tennis podcast. You can listen to it anywhere, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, but iTunes. But what you'll do is you'll hear me talk about how when you're running forward toward the sideline to hit a passing shot down the line, because it's almost always wide open. And What happens is people try to pass cross court, and what they end up doing is hitting it right to the net player. Or if they avoid their opponent, they end up hitting wide. The down the line pass is almost always wide open in this situation.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see here. Running hard off the court, especially looking to the sun. Yep. Forced your way in, hit right to him. Okay. So this is 4, 7, 9. Kind of what we talked about, where you're forcing your way in. Have a little bit of patience. I know that it's important that you go forward to not allow him to come forward, because you're taking away an opportunity for him to come in. But because you only won 42% of the points that you came in, what we did is we got him to go from 21 times to the net to 17 times. That's great. We lowered the number of times. We lessened the number of times that he got to come forward. But what we need to do is raise our winning percentage of coming to the net. And so if we want to get you around the 60 mark, if we can get you to the 60 mark, then we are absolutely dominating at a 6-4 clip, which is especially the more times you come to the net, that 60 is really powerful. If you're winning 90% of the points you come to the net, but you're only coming to the net 4 times, if you look at, or 4 times on average over a 10 match span, it's not enough.
Right.
But you're coming to the net a lot. So you don't need the winning percentage to be as high, because a bigger chunk of the points are spent with you at the net. But 42 isn't good enough. And you know that. And if I go to the net winning 42% of the points, it's not good enough for me or Federer or anyone. But you can see you force yourself coming to the net here, and you end up hitting right down the middle. And he hits a great pass on you. And that's okay. But that's just you forcing your way to the net. It wasn't a short ball, nor was he in trouble, nor were you serving and volleying, right? Like, so when you watch your footage, it's like, was I serving and volleying? Was he in trouble? Did I get a short ball? If none of those things are occurring, you should not be going to the net.
Okay.
But again, you were trying to force your way to the net to kind of touch the burner to see, oh, I shouldn't do that. And that's that important information that you learn and you gain, and then you become a smarter player as you go along.
For sure.
Most players have weaker backhand volleys. So in there, okay. So number 10. So we were talking about when you come to the net, hitting deep to his backhand volley, because since he has that slice, he's not going to like it, right? So people don't like hitting slice on the rise, typically,
right.
Especially recreational players. I know that I hate it. So I'd much rather hit a flatter shot or flatten it out or hit topspin on the rise. But the same thing can apply for the backhand volley. If you're playing someone and you just think, where should I hit the ball when he comes to the net? Hit the ball to the backhand volley. Most players are going to miss that ball more often. It doesn't mean that they're always going to miss, and he might hit a perfect volley. But this is like any game at Las Vegas, or playing blackjack. If you've got a 58% chance to win doing X and you've got a 41% chance doing Y, you'll choose X because 58 is better than 41. And so we want to give our opponent the best chance possible to mess up. So I love that you gave him this backhand volley, and you can notice what he does. Look at him chop the ball.
Yeah.
When you see him chop this ball, he doesn't do that on his forehand volley. He doesn't chop the forehand volley. He hits a pretty flat forehand volley, much like you. So if I were teaching Brian, I'd be telling him to hit to your backhand volley because of the chop and because the foot hits the ground. Let's see what he does here. Now, notice he hits the ball before his foot hits the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got that in his, on his side, which is good. But when he chops, he actually hits the ground. Let's see this. Oh, he hit the ground. You can see
it went straight down.
Straight down. And he actually looks at his racket like, what the heck? Look at him. He's like frozen. He's like, what in the world did I do there? So what happens, right? His confidence starts to go down on his backhand volley. So when somebody makes a mistake like that, you think, okay, the next time he comes to the net, I have to go exactly there. It's almost like if a second baseman lets the ball go through their legs and you hit a ground ball. The next batter hit it right to the second baseman.
Yeah, he's thinking about it. Yeah.
He's thinking about it. His confidence is down. He's not thinking automatically and acting according to instinct. He's now walking himself through the mechanics of it. And when that happens, it's almost like a kiss of death. So now he's thinking about it, and you can get him to miss more. But I love that you gave him the backhand volley, and the proof is in the pudding. He ends up missing it that's not a miss that's indicative of his level, or maybe it is. Maybe we just found what he doesn't like to do. Backhand volleys, high backhand volleys especially, are not easy. People do not like high backhand volleys. So give people high backhand volleys on purpose.
Okay.
Number 12, lob when in trouble, running really hard to your left. So then you hit behind. Okay, let's look at number 11 here. All right. So you're running down. Look where he's going, by the way. Coming forward, right? So you were in trouble and he's coming forward. So when I see that, I think this is a smart player.
Yeah.
It's you when your opponent is running the ball down. Now, when you lob more often, you'll see this more, right? So if you start lobbing more, you'll start seeing your opponent running down lobs more. So you should know then, okay, I'm going to move into no man's land. And if you notice, he's not barreling in. He's just moving forward to see what you're going to do. And if he's
coasting,
he's coasting in to see what's going to happen. If you hit a volley, if you hit a ground stroke, he'll quick move in and volley into the open court. But he doesn't want to barrel in, because then if you lob over his head, then he actually loses the point because he was so aggressive. So he's playing this absolutely perfectly. You actually run into the fence. You hit a nice lob. Now see what he's doing here. See the push ball that he's hitting?
Yeah.
That's because you hit so high that it's really tough for him to time the overhead. Now he's smart in not letting this bounce, because he'd have to move back, and then this ball would bounce, and then my phone moved. That ball would go way up and he'd get pushed back to the fence. So it's actually smart that he's hitting this ball out of the air. But notice how high you hit it. He actually has almost like a forehand grip, and he's just pushing the ball. That's the benefit of hitting super high. Your opponents, when you lob, your opponents will not have the confidence to take a big swing. And then if they do take a big swing, the chances of missing go way up, which is good. And if they don't hit a big swing, they'll just push the ball, and your chances of running this ball down go way up. Let me see. This will be actually another time to hit a nice high lob.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. Yeah,
you're running hard, and then what happens is you end up hitting it right to him. You end up hitting his forehand volley. Oh, he really chops the heck out of this ball.
Yeah,
now, he did that on purpose. He was trying to actually cut that ball. But again, your opponent is now closer to the net. You're on your backhand. You feel like you can't do much with that ball. Just lob. It's funny because some people will go from one extreme to the next. They'll go from lobbing a lot and all the time, and then it's a little bit of a stigma. They'll say, well, everyone's calling me a lobber, and I don't want to be called that. So then they don't lob at all, and they go for it on fourth down every time. It's like,
and this is one of those. It's funny because I went for everything on this lob. Like, that's actually me trying to lob it perfectly over his head for a winner. And I know it doesn't look like that, but it doesn't look like that because I hit it so bad. But it was so short because I was trying to put like the perfect amount of touch on it to just float it right over his head, for a winner. And that's where I get myself into trouble, is I'm trying to make it perfect, and I'm ending up just feeding him batting practice.
Now, that wouldn't be so bad if you hadn't been starting into the curtain. Notice you're running into the curtain. You actually, and I'm sure you remember that, you run into the curtain. And so now you're barreling into the court, and it's not easy to be able to hit such a precise shot coming off of an in trouble situation.
Right.
So this is when it's about hitting a shot that matches the situation that you're in. If you're stationary right now and you're feeling good and you've hit a couple of these and man, you've dialed it in and you can go for it and you've got the hot hand with this shot, then a nice lob, offensive lob where you hit a winner over his head is great. But the defensive lob, go for the defensive lob more often. And you hit it perfectly back here. You hit a beautiful defensive lob and you didn't do much with it. Since he's so close to the net, a defensive lob will probably go over his head or get him moving backward. And you can push him off the baseline. So I really appreciate the insight on that, because I thought that you actually were going for a ground stroke. I did not know that you were going for a lob.
Yeah.
All right. So went inside the court, passing shots down the line. All right. The last 2 points I really like. Okay. See here. Okay. So this is an interesting situation. So he sees you. I was talking about when you see your opponent in trouble, moving forward and taking the ball on the right, out of the air. He sees you are in no man's land, and he sees you get caught with this ball and pop it up. So he actually moves forward and gets this ball out of the air. That is a really high level move. I absolutely love that he did that. He takes this ball out of the air, hits it to your forehand. I love that you give him this low ball. Really good stuff. Notice you're much more on balance here. Remember, you had been over here and you were running way off the court. And I mentioned to hit the lob. You outkicked your coverage and you didn't give yourself time to get into the court. This is a completely different situation. You're inside the court. If I just extend the singles line, you're well inside the court. So hitting at his feet is a really great play, because you're giving yourself enough time to run that ball down. If you were over here, if you hit it to his feet, you're too far away from his subsequent shot. Now he goes for a little half volley, and now you're inside the court. Now we mentioned this. When you're inside the court, the shot that you want to go for is down the line. When inside the court, go down the line. Let me see what happens here. He ends up, the reason is this: cross-court passing shots have to be dipped. So not a lot of players change their target on passing shots. So let me give you this here. When you are hitting passing shots down the line, the goal on a down the line passing shot is to keep the ball very low. The goal is to hit the ball low over the net, because it doesn't matter, Jake, if your passing shot lands there, here, it doesn't matter, because that line is the same distance from him. It's equidistant to him. It doesn't matter how short or deep the ball lands. It is the same distance. That line is the same distance from him. But if you hit the ball cross court and you hit the ball here, that ball travels like this. But if you hit the ball back here, that ball lands like this.
Yeah.
So he is much closer to a deep passing shot than he is a short passing shot. So it's important when you pass short that you attempt a short passing shot, that you're trying to make the ball land near the side tee. That keeps the ball the farthest away from him. The problem with that is that's a difficult shot.
It is, yeah.
To dip the ball and spin it and get that ball to land by the side tee, it takes much more skill that I don't always trust myself to have. So that's why I recommend that people hit down the line, because you can hit short and deep, and the ball is the same distance away from him no matter which shot you go for. Cross-court passing shots should not land deep in most cases. Cross-court passing shots have to be landing short, which means you have to rip up the back of the ball with spin, or actually hit the ball softer so that gravity has time to bring that ball down. But either way, he has a chance to cut that ball off and hit the ball into the open court, which is what he does.
Yeah, that's a good point. And on my backhand, I don't even think I would have that cross court shot in my repertoire. I mean, if I hit 100 backhands cross court, maybe I could land 2 of them. You know, that's just a very, very difficult shot.
Correct. Which is why I said it about myself, and we can include ourselves in that same grouping. I don't have that shot to trust that I could actually execute and hit that shot. So This is why I recommend in most cases, hit the passing shot down the line. Let me see this. You know, when your opponent is coming up to the net, let's look at this. You're hitting the ball right now. If you're going to go for a cross-court pass, the time to do it is off of your opponent's approach shot. See where he's standing? He's much further away from that passing shot.
Right.
But
Yeah.
notice he hits the half volley and look where he goes. Now notice he's tighter to the net. Because he's tighter to the net, let me draw a line where he is for his first volley. Kind of where you're contacting. When you're contacting the ball, this is where he is. So he's, you know, where they're, no matter where he is on the court, that's how close he is to the net. But now he's up here. So now he's up here. He's probably 6 feet closer to the net, 70 feet closer to the net, the distance of this line. So when he's closer to the net, it's harder to go for the cross-court pass. So the cross-court pass is actually an easier shot to hit off of your opponent's approach shot. But you don't have to. But the cross-court passing shot is better off the approach. But once they've hit their first shot and now they're closer to the net, now the down the line is the far superior approach. You end up hitting across court. He's able to reach it and he hits this little sharp angle. It's a pretty good shot that he hit. That was quite the volley that he hit.
Yeah.
So now we can see on the last point, he hits the approach. You hit it right to him, which isn't bad. He ends up hitting it right to you. Notice this is his second volley, right? So he is closer to the net now. He gets a little tighter to the net. You've got that same backhand and look where you hit it.
Right down the line, yeah.
Right down the line. It is a picture perfect shot. If you had made this ball land here, 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 or here, the path the ball takes is the same distance from him. So it doesn't matter if you hit deep or short on a down the line passing shot. But because you hit the ball, if you hit the ball cross court, the down the line and the cross court passing shot landing short is a different shot than landing deep. Because if you hit cross court sharp, but make it land deep, the ball actually goes out. So the cross court passing shot is actually a different shot when you make it land short compared to deep. So that's why it's really important that you execute on purpose the cross-court passing shot that lands short, because cross-court passing shots that land deep, you better do it off of an approach shot that your opponent hits so that they're not super close to the net. Otherwise, you're actually hitting it through them in order to execute that shot. So remember the 3 times to go to the net. And the 3 times are serve and volley.
Short ball.
You get a short ball and the opponent is in trouble. Those are the 3 times. So you have to have that in your mind. When you review your footage, if one of those 3 things didn't occur, you should not be going to the net. So that's how we know that you were going to the net too often. Now, if he hits 100 short balls and you go to the net 100 times, you're right. So it's not the number of times that indicate if you went too much. It's, does it pass that test? And if it passes one of those 3, then you're good.
Sure.
When you hit a ball, let's say you're playing, if you're playing Brian, this was his backhand. If one thing I would like you to do is a high ball to his backhand, to just on the ground stroke, purposely hit a high bouncing ball. You see that in ice hockey. They'll get to the blue line and they'll just dump the puck in. And they've got the guys on the other side trying to get to the puck and to try to fight for possession.
Right.
That's what I kind of want you to do, is I just want you to dump it deep into his backhand side and then move forward like this. Move forward. Then, depending on what he does, if he hits super high, which he's a smart player, let that ball bounce. And let me get my Topspin Pro here. When he hits that really high lob, let the ball bounce and then cut that ball. Let the ball bounce and then cut like a very heavy slice overhead. So maybe practice that on your own. Take a tennis ball And you can either pop it up to yourself or just toss it way up into the air. Put the racket above your head, like you're shielding the sun, right? That way you're not like this.
Right.
Right. So get your conical grip with your strings facing down. Really stay sideways to him and cut that ball. And see if you can cut a slice overhead off the bounce that curves. I wonder if there's a YouTube compilation of pros hitting bounce overheads. I mean, there's everything on YouTube. I would be shocked if there wasn't. But I wonder if somebody's put together bounce overheads.
I got you.
Anytime you see really high lobs and the pros let the ball bounce, watch the shot they hit. And you're going to see the ball curve because they spin the heck out of it. It's a way to gain control and make it at least tough for your opponent. Okay.
Sure.
I'm really excited for you to try that. Okay. Let me look at my notes. Don't force your way in. Players who are flustered coming. Okay. I'm about to go against what I just said on if it doesn't pass the sniff test on one of these three, then don't go for it. If you're playing someone like Brian, who you admitted you would say he's a half a notch or a notch above you in skill.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's only physical, by the way, because we can all be as smart as Federer, because that's just brains, right? So against better players, you have to do this. If you are playing someone who's at a lower level and just the mere act of going forward screws them up and they end up just missing because you're just barreling in, that is something that you can get away with. But you almost don't need to learn how to beat people you can already beat, right?
Right. No, yeah.
So what we don't want to do against Brian, and this is what you kept doing, is that I saw, is you would get the short ball, the deep ball, and you would force your way in. And that's when you would be hitting it right to him, and he would have all day to put that ball into play, pass you. So if you're don't force your way in is really the idea. Again, if you're playing someone who, when you go in, they screw up because they feel you barreling in, but Brian doesn't seem to be that way. And really from this place up in your level of play, people are not going to get all tweaked out about their opponents coming forward because they have enough experience to not sweat that stuff.
Right.
When you're running off the court, love. Okay. So we saw with Brian one time, he hit a really great shot off the court. And you ran all the way over here. The problem was you hit it really fast to his feet. So if you're off the court, if you can tell that you're in the extremes, what you can't do is rob yourself of time. And that's what you did, is you hit it low to his feet. And then when he hit the half volley here, you ran and ran and ran. That was that lob that you hit, and he ended up painting it right on the baseline with that little back up overhead like this. Again, you've got the sun to your back. When you play outdoors, you really got to pay attention to that. Know where the sun is. And when you're over here, hit the lob super high. As you correctly pointed out, when your opponent, when you're hitting a lob, that not all lobs are trying to win the point with a bounce. Sometimes you can get your opponent to screw up the overhead, and that's the defensive lob. Defensive lobs just make the ball land a few feet past the service line.
Okay.
So you should feed yourself a couple balls. Like, go out to practice. Stand here. You've got a ball. Toss it way over here. Run really hard. See how high you can lob the ball, and maybe put like a ball basket, or maybe
try to hit something. Yeah.
Your bag. Maybe take your bag and just put it right here, and try to hit that.
I like it.
As the mindset of, we're trying to see hang time. How long can that ball stay in the air? People hate high lobs because as the ball descends, it accelerates. It's harder to time. They're looking up at the sun. Wind might shift it. All good stuff, right? So when you're running off the court, I want you to lob. I don't want you to cut lobs cold turkey because it's like, hey, I'm good enough now. I don't need to lob.
we want to lob in certain situations.
Sure.
So the basic idea, when you get a short ball, approach to his backhand. This is so simple. But you were right. When you hit an approach shot, it's actually best not to hit it over here and to pull him off the court. Because where's my marker? If I draw that line to pass, those lines are going to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if can you see them?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, good. So if you come to the net, if you pull him here, look how far away you are. And the ball's crossing over the part of the net that's in the doubles end.
Yeah.
If you keep him inside the court, you actually keep the down the line pass closer to you. Remember, the down the line pass is the easier pass. Well, it's a two-way street. It's easier for him too.
Right.
Compared to cross court.
Right.
So the down the line pass, if you can get this to be shorter, then he might think, oh, maybe I should go for the cross court. And you've got the forehand, volley, and you can just boop right there.
Yeah,
right?
That makes sense. That makes total sense.
When you hit approach shots, we want to stay out of the middle, but we also want to shy away from the extremes. Now, the extremes, if you're going to hit a winner, if you're going to put the ball away and just end the point, that's one thing.
Right.
But when you are hitting an approach shot where you're just kind of admitting to yourself into the tennis world that you are going to have to hit a subsequent shot to win the point.
Right.
That's when you want to set yourself up for that subsequent shot and put yourself in the best case scenario. But you'll see players on the pro tour, they'll hit balls off the court, come to the net, the ball goes down the line like this, and everyone goes, what an amazing shot. What's actually more impressive is if you hit that passing shot from inside the court.
Yeah, sure.
The shot was actually easier because
it's a better angle. Yeah.
They got to keep it away from the opponent. Just think about the ball, the way the ball's going to travel. And that's really the way you want to think of it. I'm going to erase that. When he comes in, okay, good. Let me erase this really quickly. The next idea was when he comes to the net, that you hit him and give him a backhand volley. Do you ever think when your opponent comes to the net, do you ever think what volley you're going to give them?
No.
You can see how just that idea, it's like, oh my gosh, why would I? And it's the high backhand volley. If you're going to give them a volley, give them a high backhand volley.
I think, maybe erroneously, I'm never thinking of what volley to give them because you feel like, oh, if I give them a volley, they're going to win the point. It's more about like, oh, what angle do I have to pass? Like you're so hyper focused on the passing shot, the winner, hit the winner. Yep. You're not necessarily thinking of giving them a tough volley.
Correct. Look, there are times when not letting them touch the ball increases the chances of you winning. And there are times that the best chance you have is putting the ball on their racket.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because if they do hit a poor volley, that's set up for you. They're just
Correct.
teeing up a great
Correct.
shot for you to put away. Yeah.
And here's what we have to understand as well. What are the choices if you're going to give them a volley? You're going to give them a forehand volley and a backhand volley. Okay, well, then give them a forehand volley, it's X% that you're going to win. Give them a backhand volley, it's X. They might both be above 50%, but wouldn't you rather 53% than 72%?
Yeah.
So the goal is, in each situation, giving yourself the best chance to win. Whether we win, who knows, but we just want to give ourselves the best chance. So don't forget that sometimes you can just, if you're a little off balance, or you don't feel like you want to go for a pass, maybe you're a little off balance, just give him a backhand volley. And I loved, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. He missed it, right?
Yeah.
It was an easy one. Went inside the court, passed down the line. So we talked about this. When he's at the net, you had a backhand volley. I'm sorry, you had a backhand ground stroke, and he was here. You went down the line, because it doesn't matter where your ball lands. The ball is the same distance from him as it passes him. Doesn't matter where the ball's landing. It's when you hit cross court where you get in trouble. Because if you hit the ball here, that's this. Well, that's good. But if you hit the ball deep, look how much closer it is. People go for cross-court passing shots, but they don't think about where the ball has to land. Cross-court passing shots need to land by the side tee. And that's not easy to do. You might want to do that more often on your forehand if you feel like you can spin that ball more. But down the line passing shots, it's funny too, because most people stand in the middle. So they're in the way of your cross-court pass. If you just pass down the line, it's wide open.
Yeah.
And last one, volley first. Here's the last thing. I want to talk to you about the volley. And this is how you can practice this. Let me move this down a little bit. On your forehand volley, you were very good. On your forehand volley, you were very good at hitting the ball, then stepping. Do you have a ball machine?
Yeah, small one. Yeah,
Okay,
it's like for the kids. Yeah, but it works. Yeah.
Is it the one that's kind of spiral and it shoots out?
Yeah, the tennis twist. It's the tennis twist.
Yep, the black tennis twist.
It's fantastic.
That's
Great.
Perfect. I love it. So put it nice and close to the net. And I know at the bottom, there's like a spring-loaded action that might shoot it a little farther. So just get the setting to go as far as it can.
Okay.
But the tennis twist is awesome. So
it is. It's great.
What you want to do is be turned like this, and just, you know how to do it on the forehand, but feel it on the forehand so you know that you're doing it, and then you can apply it to the backhand. But just be like this and go hit and then step. So turn, ball shoots out, hit, step. Now your left foot will be moving as you hit.
Yeah.
But the foot hitting the ground is after the contact. So practice that on your backhand volley. Because at the moment, you're turning on the backhand volley, stepping, and then it's like this.
Right.
Because what you're asking physics to do is ignore your backhand volley. Because it's asking for the racket to go forward on the left side. And since you're stepping with your right foot, what's the next foot that has to step? Your left. So now physics is asking you to do this. It will not happen. You'll step with your left foot, and then you'll kind of do this shuffle where your feet will hit each other, and you do that gallop. So with the tennis twist, turn, back elbow up, and try to hit flatter. And when you hit, then the foot hits the ground. So set the racket first, hit, then the foot hits the ground, and just get that feeling. I was really excited to show you the technique, that technique on the backhand volley. Because it's a common mistake that players make, but it's easily corrected. Especially, you're so good with technique. You're so good, like you're very smart. You understand. We've done enough lessons now that I know what number is this, by the way? What lesson is this?
5. I think 5. No, but I mean, they're all. We get so deep, and there's such good stuff. It seems like it's been 10. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. So I know that you grasp this concept, but I was so excited to show you that little detail, because that sometimes is a detail that when people review their own footage, it slips through the cracks and they don't see the difference and between their forehand volley and the backhand volley, and why they're so much more comfortable hitting forehand volleys than backhand volleys. So let me be a little more specific with this, and I'm going to let you go. What you might have to do is, if the ball is coming to you, focus on the left foot stepping.
Okay.
So that it's not this foot, but that it's this foot. that when the ball comes to you, you really focus on the left foot kind of leading the way, and then you step with the right foot. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You want to think
Absolutely.
of it like a dance move. So it's split, step, step.
Got it. Okay. That's
Split.
helpful.
So the left foot is taking the right foot's place.
Yeah.
So the left foot steps, now you can do the right foot, but you're just not going to see pros moving forward to the net and their front foot hits the ground before contact. It's just not going to happen.
No, and that's great you point that out, because like I can watch those volleys and say this volley looks better than this volley. Like I can watch the right way and watch the wrong way, but I can't necessarily identify like you can. Hey Jake, it's because your foot is this one's better because your foot is still in the air at contact, right?
Yep.
And I can't distill that level. But I can't look at the two volleys and go, well, this one looks better than this one, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the volley is such a momentum shot that if your foot is still in the air, you're still going forward. Once your foot hits the ground, you're done because your other foot is not going to go forward.
That's why I'm hopping, because I'm trying to put my body into it. Yeah, I'm trying to get the body into it.
So you're losing control over your body and then trying to volley. And it's our backhand. We want every chance we can to hit a good backhand volley.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. This was an absolute blast. I loved it. I love whenever people send me the footage on Swing Vision. So thank you for that again. If you can, just keep playing that guy.
Yeah, we play once a week. We play once a week.
Said, yeah.
So we'll probably go through it again with another session.
But look through your notes and just make a concerted effort that when you're in trouble, you're going to lob, that you're going to approach more to his backhand, that your passing shots, you're going to hit more down the line. And you've seen what it looks like to force your way into the net. So maybe if you just wait one more shot, he'll give you that short ball. And then you can approach to his backhand. And the last thing I forgot to mention again is to remind you, make sure when you're coming forward, you put your left hand on the throat of the racket. So that
was a good point.
Just to make sure that you can then do some slice or a little drop shot rather than having your racket like this and you're running in. You want to make sure you're like this. So awesome.
Great stuff, man, Jake, as always.
So much. I'll send you the recording later today. That way you can review this before your next match against Brian.
You're the best, man.
I'll talk to you. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Bye, Jake.
See ya. Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed giving that lesson to Jake. And if you would like me to improve your technique, whether it's your forehand, your backhand, your serve, you want more speed on your serve, you want to hit a better kick serve, maybe you need more topspin on your forehand, maybe you need better net play, or you need to improve your match strategy and your court positioning, both singles and doubles, you can sign up for a private Zoom lesson with me right now. Go to 2minutetennis.net, and I would absolutely love to help you gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.